Good morning, everybody, for this beautiful morning. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi to each one of us and each one of you. And what is so important about Gayatri Datta is that very relentlessly, across the last 7, 8 years, she has been at this continuously, both in the United States of America and India. She understands the pain of families who have lost loved ones. And I have learned a lot from all these interactions, personal as well as professional, and as well as uh, during this phase. No picture epitomizes this era than Gautam Buddha, who talks about equanimity, who talks about a lot of emotional regulation, who talks about a lot of peace. And absolutely, I would say that this picture actually speaks a lot, teaches us a lot, and also helps us learn a lot. Now, I always start my presentation with this beautiful slide that lock minds are time bombs, diffuse it early, lest it explodes inside you. And this is self explanatory to all those who are here. And most of us, during a catastrophe, we close ourselves, we build a shell around us like the tortoise, and probably it leads to our own destruction. And that is something we need to really know. What is very fundamental about this pandemic and other disasters is that this is a different disaster. This is not about fatalism. But while working with disasters across time, earthquakes, cyclone, riots, etc., and while evaluating disasters on behalf of governments and the human rights groups, most of the places you hear that it's God, Devachi Krupa hai, Bhagwan ki ichha hai, hamare haath mein kya hai. I still remember Anand Chaturdashi was the last day, and this Ganesh festival reminds me of the Latur earthquake because it occurred on the last day of the earthquake. And there was a lot of fatalism. Fatalism is a methodology of coping in India. In fact, I always ask people in India, is the God overlooking Japan, USA, and India different? Because the same magnitude of the disaster does not kill as many in Japan as many as well as in USA, because they have understood earthquake resistant homes, etc. So fatalism, but this disaster is about science, it's about a virus. And because scientists told all the priests to close down the temples, mosques, and churches, they closed them down. And that is something we need to really understand. The second important aspect of this disaster is a long impact phase. Earthquake happens, there's noise, buildings fall, and it's over. The impact phase is over. In a cyclone, you see wind, you see water for a few hours, and it's over. In a flood, few days of flood, and it's over. But here, the impact phase is going on for the last 18 months. That's something we need to understand. 18 months, 19 months, the virus is relentlessly attacking, and the third wave is around the corner, and that is something we need to understand. Huge numbers. 8,000 people plus died in earthquake. This is more than 4 lakhs in the country. USA 6 lakhs, with a lot of 1 lakh population still in hospitals. There are no ICU beds in Florida, no oxygen. The fourth important difference is isolation. We cannot hold our loved ones close to us. We cannot escort them to the loo. We cannot give them food with our spoons. We cannot touch them. We cannot kiss them while in hospital. They're far away. The fifth difference is invisibility of the virus. When the hallakar is not visible, the fear is more. And the last one is, so many of us in India made hay while the sun shined. So many sold medicines in black. So many created vaccine hesitancy in the country. And I would call them COVID terrorists. And what changed? Well, suddenly the spouse was valued because during the first lockdown, everybody had more time to be with the spouse. Honeymoon phase of the disaster, we call it. That's the psychological term we use immediately after the disaster. There was lockdown, everybody were together. Suddenly people became aware of the families, about the spouses, about the utility of the spouses. They valued the family, they valued small things. In fact, I always say that I didn't eat fish for 2 years and I did not miss anything. And for somebody like me, not eating fish is very difficult. Everybody were back to hobbies. There were cakes being baked and so many other things. Aggressive ambitions went down and people postponed their dreams. Doctors told me that during surgery, But actually, they have not entered the OTs and they said, we will postpone our dreams, we'll do it much later. People were actually happy with little joys which were happening around them. Can we bounce back? Of course, human race has always bounced back after a catastrophe. There's never been a day when human beings have not bounced back. They bounced back after the plague, they bounced back after the famine, they bounced back after the world wars, and they bounced back after the first pandemic 100 years ago. And that will always happen. So what started immediately after the disaster? Fear of the virus, mujhe infect ho sakta hai, I can get infected. Fear of death, if I get infected, I might die. And fear of the future, jobs, marriages, colleges, traveling, business, etc. And these were the three most important fears. Now, let's look at the studies done across the world. There was one study on resilience in 4 countries, and they found the United States of America very resilient, Europe to be next, Pakistan to be third, India to be fourth, and Indonesia to be fifth. Very interesting study, though I do not give much credence to this. But this is a very important study which actually helped us understand what can we do in our country to help people who have been affected. Those who perceived safety, but they were much better. हाँ, मेरे घर में लोग हैं, कुछ होगा तो मुझे लोग मदद करेंगे, they will help me. I have a safety net of friends who will always stand by my side, and that is something which really worked. Social networks, in fact, social networks and social support are the things which have been actually affected due to globalization, because globalization has caused disconnection. We have lost connect with people. Number of people in the funerals are very few. That's a sine qua non indication of alienation and social networks. Also, people who have had social networks, they do much better in the disaster. Non-psychiatric interventions, that would not mean psychiatric interventions are not necessary. They are necessary when it's required, but people helping each other, support, and simple yoga, simple counseling, simple befriending also has had very great impact. One of the most important notable features during crisis always is that poverty is a risk factor. Economic loss is a risk factor, and the poor people actually suffered a lot in the country and all over the world. Let me give you a data point here. 2019, the National Crime Research Bureau, that's the Indian government agency which records suicides and accidents. And what did they say? Nearly 1 out of 4 people who died of suicide are migrant laborers. I mean, isn't that a big figure? Nobody's talking about it. And our outreach does not go to them. And what is important, it's not about depression. It's about food. Mental health is not only about feelings. It's also about food. And this, again, is a very important issue. As I go ahead, I would say this is a very big study, 41,402 participants, 35 countries, 35 studies, and meta-analysis of all those studies recently showed that 41.3% of people have anxiety and approximately 34.1% of people have depression. This is a Southeast Asia study, and it's very important that as we belong to this cohort. Now, one thing which we found which is very difficult was managing the COVID warriors. In fact, I was involved very actively in talking to them both offline and online, live in the hospitals. And things came to light is that they were sad, they were exhausted, they were burning out, they were tired. And what works in every disaster, in Latur also, when we were working, we noticed that working in pairs is more important than working alone. We don't want anybody, Amitabh Bachchan, मैं जहाँ से खड़ा होता हूँ वहाँ से line शुरू होती है. We don't want such people at all. Working in pairs is so important. Reframing careers and aspirations. I have joined my MS surgery, but I will wait till the disaster is over. And I'm sure that I postponed my dreams, but I'm going to come back. I will study all over again. I'll protect my dream. I'll preserve my dream. I'll change my dream if necessary, but I will fulfill my dream. This is a boss in my life. We are hiding from the virus, but we're not hiding from life. One thing which really helped COVID warriors is when they say bye to those who improve and go away. And a discharge summary is not bye. Discharge summary is part of it's a formal bye. It's an official bye, but the discharge summary from the hospital is not a bye. It is saying bye till the gate of the hospital. And surely everybody cannot do that to every patient, but once in a while, escorting the patient up to the gate at the ambulance and saying bye elicits a lot of feelings from both the doctor as well as the person who has improved. And that feeling is extremely important to prop, to energize, to inspire, to work again. At the same time, saying farewell to those who did not make it as they go horizontally, not vertically, to the ambulance and leaving them up to the ambulance, saying bye to the relative, probably holding their tear, helping them with their tears and consoling them also is a very powerful activity in really helping us get over the entire thing. And 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 that's how it is. Give me 1 second. It's an urgent call. Shashikan, can I call you later? Thank you. No, no. I will call in 1 hour. Don't worry about it. I'll come to the hospital. I'll come to the hospital. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about it. That's life. Because my hospital is a COVID hospital. Also, if I have to say this, that really farewell is important. Debriefing in the sense what happens to them at the end of the day, sitting down and sharing their feelings, emotions, which could be anything. I felt sad, I felt angry, I felt so angry at the close relative who really abused me on the phone when I gave him the update, though we are taking full care of the patient and sharing with each other really was appreciation. In fact, this is one of the most important experiments we conducted. Any doctor who hears anything good anywhere in the country or in the city should make an effort to pick up the phone and congratulate the person across, appreciate the person across. That helps open their own hearts, helps their own mental health, and that is so well. Family interventions, I advise the hospital to have a meeting with the families in a group in the evening and have a family gappa so that not only they inform about what's happening, but what's happening is informed on the phone, but the healing part, when everybody get together, they all share their worries, their pains and their fears, and that really helps to feel better. Now, what were the issues we saw? And these are not out of my own head, but it's also research as well as experience. Sleep issues were very, very important. One of the most important sleep issues. People were not able to sleep. Those who heard about the disaster, those who saw the videos of Wuhan, those who saw news, those who were involved in research of the disaster, WhatsApp research of the disaster, had a lot of sleep issues. So sleep issues were very important. Lack of concentration, anxiety, irritability, grief, and bad memories. We'll really cover that. But what worked here was that so many of them who actually did a lot of Eastern practices, so many of them who did not become research officers of COVID, so many of them who restricted talking about COVID for only 15 minutes a day by looking at updates from the government did much, much better. Also, what is also very important is that COVID was equated to a murderer in an area who's invisible. People have closed their doors completely because the murderer can come and slay anybody or in fact maul anybody, and the invisibility and the presence also caused a lot of sleep issues, lack of concentration, anxiety, irritability, grief, and bad memories were some of the symptoms that you see. Now, this is a very important slide. In fact, research has shown when large number of people die, there is apathy. When a small number of people die, there's empathy because there are a lot of people who have not been affected by the entire disaster can also really support and help others. I'll tell you what apathy is. In fact, as the fear sets in, my neighbor passed away, my uncle passed away. Sometimes the fear can really get converted into sadness. Somebody passed away, and I really would want to wish that person. I'm sad. I want to wish that person. That keeps you alive when you show empathy. That keeps you alive. But sometimes the fear can cause numbness. complete numbness. Oh my God, if he has died, I can also die. And fear multiplies and complete numbness. No, I don't want to do anything about it. And you block your feelings completely. And that causes apathy because you really do not reach out to people whom you knew, even in the neighborhood. And you say there's nothing doing. I don't know what to do. And that causes a lot of apathy, empathy, antipathy is still very big consequence of the disaster. And I'll tell you how and why. When somebody falls ill, say for example, a 63-year-old man is in hospital, he's out of COVID, and is still in the hospital because of other complications, and his close relatives, his sister, brother would want to come and see him, but they are stopped by the children. Aap mat jao, aapko kuch ho gaya to hamara kya? And the children would not have extended empathy towards their extended family. And the father and the mother would sit down with the children and say, listen, if your brother has COVID or has something, would you not help him years from now? If your brother falls in trouble, would you not help him? So antipathy is also a very common consequence of the disaster. I tell everybody this: sadness is a flower pot. Empathy is the growing plant. You need sadness to be empathic. You need equanimity to be empathic. You need emotional regulation to be empathic, and that is so important. And I tell everybody, do not overestimate the power of your mind. नहीं, मेरा mind strong है. हमको कुछ नहीं हुआ इतने साल से. मेरा mind को कुछ नहीं हो सकता. अरे यार, mind is not made of iron and steel. It's made of neurons, and you need to nourish it always. Well, amygdaloid is a very important part of the brain, which was used when we were in the Stone Age. And what would it do? It helped us save us from danger, fight or flight. Lion, शेर आया, मैंने बाण चलाया, शेर मर गया, और मैं जिंदा हूँ. शेर, 4 शेर आए, मैं भाग गया. It actually played the role of fight and flight, and it evoked anger and a response. Amygdaloid is also responsible for people who are mufat and patkal, sudden outbursts. That's amygdaloid. And as we evolved, human race became agrarian. We calmed down the amygdaloid, and we started responding to the prefrontal cortex, which helps us in making a decision. So actually, in the disaster, amygdaloid overwhelmed the prefrontal cortex. So a lot of people were irritable inside the house, and then the ability to discern and the ability to actually take rational decisions also were affected. Now, what helped? Again, research. This is research. When you are irritable, a precursor for becoming depressed, a precursor for becoming stressed, cortisol increases in the brain. There's a rain of cortisol because the hypothalamo-pituitary axis really goes haywire. And then meditation exercise brings down cortisol, amygdaloid calms down, and the hippocampus of the prefrontal cortex really improves. This is one of the important things. Harvard said that if you want to fight the disaster, practice yoga. The United States Navy told all the SEALs, all the Marines in the ships, you do yoga. And that can really calm you down, at the same time improve your immunity. A lot of Indians, हमारे भाई गुजर गए, पर समय से सब कुछ ठीक होता है. हमने उन्हें देखा नहीं, हमने उन्हें स्मशान भूमि पर हमने अंतिम विधि नहीं किया. आम्ही नव्हतो तिथे, आम्ही काही केलं नाही, पण आम्हाला माहिती आहे वेळ जसं काळ जाणार तसं आम्ही बरं होणार. नो यार, no way. Time is not always the best healer. 1 out of 7 Indians are mental ill. 20 crore Indians are mental ill. On that backdrop, we have a disaster. In fact, let me tell you, this is not my finding. Minister of Health and Welfare, just before the disaster, 2019, ICMR and Minister of Health and Welfare released that data. So time is not always the best healer. What are the small things we learned which could help? Reciprocal abundant appreciation, even to strangers. Pick up the phone and talk to the officer who did a good job, talk to the cop who did a good job, talk to the morgue attendant whom you have heard about, trace his number and appreciate. And because that is what we need when there's a war or a pandemic. That's so important. So reciprocal abundant appreciation, even to strangers. Food and feelings. Well, I said mental health is not about feelings, it's also about food. The poor Siberian cranes and pack of birds. Well, very important not to be Siberian cranes, but to be a pack of birds. Be together. Talk to your safe space. Talk to the safe space where you can be emotionally nude. Inject Unpredictable enthusiasm, 1 ampule intramuscular statin OD daily. Well, for enthusiasm, I still remember this girl who was working in a COVID ward said, I didn't feel like doing anything. I didn't feel like going to the ward, but I started dancing in the morning alone. I said, don't dance alone. Get all the girls and boys in your hostel and dance together just half an hour before you start your work, celebrating life and death, as I've said. And all the leaders working in the corona field, all those who are heads of the hospital, heads of departments, heads of the police force, I said, get them for coffee, tea, and juice sometimes, or even food. I still remember that I was inspired in my college, not only by the wealth of knowledge, not only by the wisdom which I got from my teachers, but also about food for thought and food for the belly, both inspire, and that is so important. Those who are at home for a very long time, even now doing online work, shower bath 3-4 times a day helps them energize, because shower releases the tightness in the scalp. It's also Shirodhara in real Ayurveda. That is so important. Dinner at home, cuddling, very powerful activity. Hugging loved ones without reason, again, helped ease the tension. Humor, white and black, laughing out loud without reason. Standing by your colleagues during the disaster. No scapegoating anybody. No giving memos and orders just because something went wrong. A lot of things would have gone wrong because we did not know how to manage the sick. We did not know what to do. We did not have a precedent. We did not have a data. We had a precedent of a disaster 100 years ago, but we really did not know what to do. Aligned communication, which is sometimes we found that the resident doctor says something to the relative, the associate professor says something to the relative, and the dean says something else. So bringing the communication aligned was something which really helped. Group audits, auditing the day across the day, what went wrong, what went right, and reflection helped us to a lot of extent. So we tell everybody this beautiful sentence that mind and body are in constant conversation. Equal attention to both helps immunity, health, and equanimity, which means what? Which means as you meditate, your hypothalamus, pituitary axis is active, and your sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system are aligned. At the same time, mind and the body is aligned. At the same time, the body aligns itself with the cosmos. Alignment is the most important secret for good health. And to remember that the mind and the body talk to each other, and when the body gets upset, the organs can go on strike because you're not taking care of your mind, which means the pancreas will say, I will not release insulin. Stomach will say, I'll give you a lot of acid. Liver will say, I'll clean the body slowly. Calcium will say, I'll settle down in your heart vessels. I'm sluggish, I can't move. I'll just settle down in your heart vessels. So what is important is, let the orchestra of the body not be disturbed. Let there be music and not noise. Well, what to do with the kids? Very, very important. What to do with the kids is, Sach Bolunga yaar. बता देना उन्हें क्या है, एज अप्रोप्रिएट. Don't say, नहीं आपको कुछ पता ना, आप सोचो आपको क्या करना है. In the past, Indians would say, हम पैसे के बाबत और बिजनेस के बाबत हम अपने बीबी को और बच्चों को नहीं बताते. अरे यार, बच्चे सुनते हैं, दीवारों को भी कान होता है. तो सच बताइए, so many children have panic attacks because they did not know what the hell was happening. And the panic attacks went down when there was reassurance and rational, truthful information was shared, age appropriate. So important not to underestimate the understanding of the elders or the young children. Say it according to their age. And what is again very, very vital is that children should be taken into the healing process, which means what? I still remember people saying, what is the use of kids in finding the answers to the disaster? I said, very few people know anything about the disaster. Even today, we do not know who dies, who will be alive. Corona chooses whom to kill and whom to be alive. And at that point of time, wisdom can come from little children, because the simplest minds are the most profound. Sit down together and discuss and chat how to cope in the next 1 month. We need to get food from the vegetable vendor or online. We can't go and check the vegetable, because checking the vegetable might help you get the virus. I'm talking about those times. So it's very important not to underestimate the wisdom of the child in contributing to healing of the family, because the simplest minds are the most profound. And remember, how do you share your difficulties with the children? नॉट एंग्शियस शेयरिंग। ये पता है कि अभी कुछ हमारा जॉब कट हुआ, हम कुछ कुछ पता नहीं है, तुम जरा अपने आप को संभालो। एंग्शियस शेयरिंग। फैक्चुअल शेयरिंग, मेरा जॉब कट हुआ है, सैलरी में पैसा कम आ गया। हेल्पलेस शेयरिंग, अभी क्या होगा पता नहीं यार, अभी अभी पता नहीं क्या होगा, बहुत पैसे चले गए। एम्पावर्ड शेयरिंग, be getting in touch with the feelings, understanding that things are difficult, understanding that I've lost the job not because of me, but because of the circumstance, understanding that my job cut is because of my salary cut is because of the circumstance, and saying, हाँ थोड़ा तकलीफ है पर हम साथ में मिलके इसको फेस करेंगे। हम जब कहते हैं साथ में मिलके फेस करेंगे, तब क्या होता है, तब सभी जो बैठते हैं उनके दिमाग से कुछ न कुछ निकलता है। चार भेजा जब साथ में आते हैं तब क्रांति होती है। So empowered sharing would mean, I know I've lost, I'm scared, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm sad, but we will find an answer. And for empowered sharing, one needs to get in touch with feelings and one needs to kill shame and seek help. Job चला गया, खुल के बताना. That is so important. So important. In the family, we experimented with this. Create a routine, color, conversation, celebrate. Create a routine is create a framework. I know this had an adverse effect in some families. They said routine म्हणजे काय, आपण regimented आयुष्य जगायचं. 5 वाजता उठायचं, 5:30 वाजता स्तोत्र म्हणायचं, 6 वाजता व्यायाम करायचं, 6:30 वाजता ब्रेकफास्ट घ्यायची. नाही, व्यायाम काही लोक सकाळी करणार. Some people will have exercise in the morning. Some kids might think of having exercise in the evening. So routine is a framework. Don't really hassle them. Color, wearing colored clothes in difficult days helps mood. Conversation, talking to a safe space. Your safe space where you can be emotionally new. Not talking to people who whine all the time. Not talking to people who actually are extremely in a victim mode. We're talking to people who say, यार आजकल मुझे बहुत लगा डर, पर आज मैं ठीक हूँ, आप कैसे हो? And celebrate. And that would mean actually celebrating whatever we have on our table. That would actually mean celebrating whatever we have on the table. And that is so important. That is so important. And that is so important. And as we celebrate what we have on the table, which means, as I said, I did not have enough good food, the food which I like, and things really helped. And so routine, color, celebrate helped a lot of parents. And we always told our family. We always told our family. And we help people focus on their health, on their surroundings, swavlamban, and samjhota is very important. I still remember this family saying, oh no, as I've said, I can't ask for vegetables unless I touch the vegetable. I don't. And she got COVID into the family. Swarth, important that mothers take care of themselves and not really think about the entire family all the time. So mental health of the mother is most important in any disaster, any time of life. And I tell them to get down from your sacrificing horse. त्याग के घोड़े से उतर जाओ. जिंदगी की मोमबत्ती दोनों बाजू से बिल्कुल मत जलाओ. So important to understand the need to not be sacrificial human beings, because they need to choose whether they're a martyr or a manager. Being a martyr is not as important. Though a lot of working women also believe that they need to be excellent mother-in-laws, excellent daughter-in-law, excellent wife, and excellent mother. Not really. And they always believe that they need the perfect house. And if the house is not perfect, they are not good. They don't believe that having a house in a display mode is not right. Having a house in a living mode is more important. Imperfect home is a healthy abode. Well, the son goes and cooks rice or cooks a vegetable and makes and it is not very palatable, but it's okay. But accepting that would mean that is a happy home. A husband or a sister or a daughter does something which the mother does to help the mother. What is wrong in that? Imperfect home is a healthy abode. Imperfect kitchen is a happy house. Imperfect mother is a happy wife. An imperfect wife is a happy marriage. And this is what I learned from one of my female psychiatrist doctors. Isn't it imperfection? It's perfection is more dangerous. Consistency is more important than perfection, and that is something we need to all learn. Well, death in the family. My sincerest condolence to all those who have lost their loved ones. And I lost my loved one also. I lost my mother, sister, and my brother in the disaster. 175, 155. And it's so difficult. It was so difficult because I had to cremate. I had to cremate my aunt alone with my nephew. We were both crying like little children. I consoling him, he consoling me in the crematorium and zooming it to all the close relatives to watch. Not easy at all, not easy. But let us understand simple methods of grieving around the disaster. जो साथ में जो रोते हैं ना साथ में अच्छे हो जाते हैं. Family that cries together heals together. Very important. And forget that business of India. My father's a strong man. He doesn't cry. What the hell? He'll die early. He's the pillar of the family. There's no pillar. You think? Have you heard of any building standing on a pillar, one pillar? No, family stands. The building stands on many pillars. Similarly, grief stands on many pillars. Some are strong. Some are old. Some are young. Some are little pillars. Some are middle pillars. Some are older pillars. So important to understand each one can console the other. That's the philosophy of grief. We are connecting groups for those who are grieving, support groups for the last so many months, both online and offline. And one method which we need to tell everybody, one intervention is that don't overestimate your ability to be resilient. And if you cry, your children will not get upset. If you cry, they'll say, Father is normal, like he's not God. So important to say, normal and not God. And that is something which is very important. So I've learned in disaster the issue of healing. So I say, जो बह गया वो पानी है, जो रह गया वो जहर है. Tears are liberating, never stop them. Doesn't affect. I still remember this family. The husband died, and there was a joint family, and the wife was crying. Everybody in the family was saying, "Ka रडते तू आता हालत पुढे बघायचं," and they don't understand काय पुढे बघायचं. तिचा नवरा वारला, तुझं नाही. But they would stop her from crying. And the little 2.5-year-old girl would keep a watch on the mother. And when she starts crying, she would stop her. I had to change it completely. And what did I do? I told the child, cry as much as you can. Your father has passed away. No issues at all. Let your mother also cry. They were inculcating false values of tears. And she would have it all her life. At this point of time, if she's told that crying is bad and it's not good for her, she'll have it for all her life. So let's make tears democratic. Let's make crying a democratic activity. It doesn't affect the other. And it's so important for us to understand that pillars, there are many pillars which help a building stand, not one pillar. If there's one pillar, the building will fall. Similarly, inside the house, there are many pillars of consoling. There are little kids who can console their mothers. The mother can console the little kids. The fathers can console the grandparents, and so on and so forth. So there are many pillars which are required when you console. My dear friends, a short story and then I'll slowly stop. Irritability is a very important symptom of post disaster. And I have found many families irritable, not depressed, irritable. Huh? And I found that the most important cause of the irritability was blocking their feelings. They would block their feelings. And in me, if I show my real vulnerability, everybody will be affected. Everybody will be affected, and I should show my stoic self. Parampara, Pratishtha, Anushasan is Gurukul ke teen niyam. Amitabh Bachchan said in Mohabbat. No, yeah. Acknowledge fears, hug your fears, and you feel lighter. मेरी तो बहुत पड़ती. Actually, I didn't stay at home across the last 2 years. I went to my hospital, went to my clinic, and did offline practice across the last year. Never stopped even a single day. I only stopped working when my auntie died, my brother died, and a friend psychiatrist who passed away. Otherwise, I traveled. And if you ask me, were you scared? Yes, I was scared. But what did I tell myself? Self-talk. Self-talk is, I've got a mask. I've got a double mask. I'm vaccinated. First day, first show, I took the vaccine. No fears at all. I felt it was necessary because it's the best thing we can do. And then I would stay 6 feet away, and that would really help me with the disaster. And so what I tell myself is 95, 85% improved with quarantine. 95% went home, and that's how I practiced, and that's how you beat your fears. So irritability is also because people really do not understand their fears. There are many who are depressed, many suffer from PTSD, many have panic attacks, a lot of them have phobias, not going out at all, a lot of them have OCD symptoms. They all need to be treated by a psychologist and a psychiatrist. I need to see to it that they access care. My dear friends, as I stop, remember one thing: yoga is free. Patanjali taught us free. Patanjali and Gautam Buddha were the world's greatest mental health professionals. Gautam Buddha gave us equanimity, and Gautam Buddha gave us mindfulness. The world is using it. Yoga, well, American Navy, everybody is practicing. It's so important for us to start doing that inside the house. Improves immunity, improves mental health. And one metaphorical learning, there are many learnings from the virus, and one metaphorical learning from the virus is, just as the virus mutates for the worse, human behaviors has to mutate for the best. We need to adapt with the virus. We need to adapt our behaviors around the pandemic and learn from the virus that if the virus can change its spike protein all the time, delta, delta, alpha, beta, lambda, and now C1.2 is a new mutation. We should also learn to mutate our behavior so that we can protect our human race and the family. Lastly, there's the Panchamrut for life: yoga, exercise, diet, sleep, and kindness. Kindness improves immunity. Research has shown that when you see videos of kindness, seeing videos of kindness, they did this experiment with the videos of Mother Teresa, and they found IgG, immunoglobulins, increase in the human body. And exercise, as you know, dissolves fears, tears, and anger, causes neurogenesis in the brain, and also improves the health of all the glands. Diet, as you know what it is. Sleep, never play around with your sleep. Very important that you do not deprive yourself of your sleep, because sleep is the manager of the entire body. If you deprive yourself of your sleep, your body will crash. At the same time, your obituaries will appear much earlier than what you think it should. And as I close, my dear friends, let us understand that inside us, each one is innocent, which means let us actually listen to the child inside us. Being childlike is more important than being perfect and being there. Being childlike means that you are in touch with yourself. You are not in touch with your visiting card. Who you are, a doctor, consultant, engineer, psychologist, who cares? Businessman. Corona doesn't care who you are. It only knows that it can get into your lungs through your nose or your mouth or your eyes and get you infected. With this, I stop. I pray to God today on Ganesh Chaturthi week that let God give us the courage to fight the pandemic. Let God give us the courage to prevent suicides in the country and on the earth. Let God give us the courage to connect with each other, to be kind to each other, and to be as compassionate as much as we can. I thank Meenakshi Nagvikar for choosing me all the time, sending me multiple emails, making me calls, and sending me meticulous notes. सवा 9 बजे ज्वाइन होने का, कैमरा सही रखने का, sound को सही रखने का. My God, she must be a professor in a college, but I think I genuinely thank her for for doing all that. Otherwise, we are so elusive, and you might forget the date of the conference. I thank also Sachi Mulki. She is from my side of the country, and I thank her for doing all what is necessary for getting this going. And a heap of thanks to Gayatri Vidatta. I really appeal to each one of you there to donate whatever you can for this cause. And it is so important to keep this cause going. Gayatri has been relentlessly pursuing it in spite of a lot of difficulties and a lot of losses in her family due to self-harm. I'm really touched by her work and really inspired by her work. I wish the conference great success. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you.